Okay, so this is the topic today that we want to discuss, right?
Yeah. So, like, Vika, you're asking me what is 6P's, right? So I think
Yes.
6P's are what marketing team understands very clearly, right? Because they have to like work on it every day, day in, day out. They have to create the product, they have to define the pricing, they have to make the promotions, they have to make the packaging. So all the P's, and they have to have the right place for distributing it. So we are trying to cover as much as these 6P's. And like I was saying, we are going to look at it from the perspective of neuroscience, but neuroscience has got a intermediate, which we call five senses, which we know all of us, right? We don't have to explain that. So whatever stimulus, we get it from these five senses. And ultimately, if I have to influence the consumer as a marketer, I need to influence one of these five senses or multiple of these five senses. But different senses work in a different way, and different senses have got different best practices. And are we using all senses? I think that to me is the fundamental questions. Sometimes if you don't go deeper, I think you'll realize that maybe you're not using all senses of consumers to reach out to the consumers. You're just focusing on, say, one sense and just trying to bombard with that. So you're missing out on how to create memories with those five senses. So that is basically today's thing is all about, in terms of how can we use different senses? What are the key best practices? What are the possibilities or examples? And then see whether, as a marketer, are we using all five senses or not? And if not, can we use, because that definitely will improve the overall brand presence in my mind as a brain. So that's the whole thing about.
Okay, that's great. So that's the summary.
Let's start, I guess, right? Let's start.
Yep. Okay. I think that so many people already joining. I think that we can start now for the webinar today. Thank you everyone for coming. Terima kasih semuanya yang udah hadir today. Before that, I would like to say, because we just finished the Idul Fitri, Pak Mahes, so I would like to say mohon maaf lahir dan batin for everyone.
Mohon maaf lahir dan batin. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start this webinar. Let's start this month with a great webinar. So today we would like to talk about neuro-marketing hacks for the 6P's. This webinar is actually more related for the marketing people, but here so many people marketing, but also so many people coming from the research. I hope that you guys can enjoy today's webinar. And for today's webinar, Pak Mahes Agarwal, our Managing Director, will present the presentation today. So feel free to give a question whenever you have a question. I want to try to make this webinar as an interactive as possible. So let's say you want to talk directly with Pak Mahes, feel free, just raise your hand, and I will give you permission to also talk on this webinar. So feel free if you have any question, if you have any something that you want to discuss also, so feel free to just raise your hand and I will give you a permission. As you know that maybe some of you, I think that most of people here already knows you, Pak Mahes. Like,
yeah,
very famous. Yeah. You are already in Indonesia for more than 25 years, I think, in the market research industry, right?
Market research 25 years, Indonesia 15 years. Yes.
Okay, so you have already, like, I think half of Indonesian blood, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so okay, without further ado, I think that let's start this meeting. Pak Mahes, feel free to start your webinar today.
Yeah, okay. So thank you everyone. I think those who have attended, attending, and those who are likely to attend in the middle of the webinar. So this has been a work of lot of effort and a lot of learnings based on all the research we have been doing, and also a lot of reading, lot of research we have been doing in the course of developing our neuroscience understanding. Because as you know, our name is Neurosensum, and therefore we are one of the main objectives or agenda as a company is to drive understanding of neuroscience more and more among consumers or among clients, be it the marketing side, research side, so that not only it's not about research, that you do more research, because I'm not going to sell anything today. More about giving you frameworks of understanding, giving you how the brain works, and what are some examples of how different brands are using, how our brain works to create a better brand. And with that learning, I think it would be right to reflect back on your own brand and say, as a brand guardian, am I doing that? And am I using all the 5 senses, for example, here, to kind of create a neurological atmosphere of the brand, which is resonating with the consumers. So that's the whole thing about today. So let's start. So first question, I think I will minimize this on my side. Okay. The first question is, why is understanding neuroscience important? I'm not going to, I think, Vika, can you see the whole screen without any? Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah,
so
we can see all the screen.
Yeah. So why understanding neuroscience is important? I think the reason is that ultimately, whatever decision you're making, is obviously is driven by your brain. So that's a very mediocre thing to say, simple thing to say. But the point is, our brain, which we are targeting, and the consumer's brain we are targeting, is a very old brain. So whatever development has happened in the last 100,000 years is actually something which has not really had an impact. A lot of decision we make is still based on the brain which is developed 100,000 years ago, right? And that brain is actually very, very energy consuming machine. So 20%, as it is said that 20% of our brain, 20% of the energy is actually consumed by brain every day, which is roughly only 3% of our body volume. So therefore, what happens is it's always taking shortcuts. And that's where this whole system 1, system 2 thinking has developed, and saying that brain does not always think deeply about many things, but just take shortcuts. And that's what we're calling in our initial slide called hacks, So they take shortcuts and then say, okay, so understanding how the brain takes shortcuts driven by the old limbic brain is very important, so that we can make our processes in line with those shortcuts. I think that's I would say a basic, simple way of thinking why we need neuroscience understanding, so that we can create our 6P's or other marketing things around that. So second point is that what we buy is really decided in the store. I think most of us know that already now, right? It's not that I come to the store and decide what to buy, right? So 6P's is all our stimulus, So when we make a promotion, when we make an ad, when we make a pricing decision, a packaging, everything is an exposure or like a stimulus from our side. And consumers are exposed to this in various moments of truth. Again, this is quite defined and quite clear. So the question is, what happens to the stimulus? Because right now, for example, I'm not buying a bike, or a car, for example, for the next 3 years. So what happens? I still keep on seeing the ads. So what happens to that? Basically, everything I see, or I keep seeing the showroom of a car or something like that. So anything I see gets stored in our brain as a memory, right? So remember this word memory. So actually the whole thing today we are discussing is all about memory and how to influence that. I think there's somebody raised the hand, but I think we'll come back after the first few slides. So every stimulus in whatever the marketing people do creates a memory, and every stimulus and every memory has a different seat in the brain. So if you see this picture on the left side, you see that there are different parts of the brain, and when we talk about our 5 senses, they don't actually get stored in the same place. There's different part of the brain as stores different kind of stimuli. So if you see, there's a visual cortex at the back of the head which processes and stores anything which is visual. However, there's an auditory cortex in up front, in the brain, which actually stores everything which is sound. There's an olfactory complex, which anything which is sound, there's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is sound. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is sound. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is visual. There's a olfactory complex, which stores everything which is sound. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is sound. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is visual. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is sound. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is visual. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is sound. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is visual. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is sound. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is visual. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is sound. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is visual. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is sound. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is visual. There's an olfactory complex, which stores everything which is sound. participants can now see the screen. Means earlier not seeing, or what? Can everybody see the screen?
I think that, yes, we can see the screen.
Okay. No, because now I got a message that participants can now see the screen. Okay. Hopefully,
Yes,
hopefully you can see the screen. Let's see the chat. Everything is okay. Okay, can. Okay, so okay. So if you see this, so there are somatosensory cortex, which is about touch and feel, and similarly, other part. The whole point is that how these 5 senses is collected and stored is different. It's not in a similar way, and that we'll go through in detail and understand what is the impact. And as we continue, and another concept is the neuroplasticity, which is as we continue to collect information every day, day in, day out about the brands, and over a period of years and decades and things like that, our brain keeps on collecting that, reorganizing that, and actually consolidating the information. So that, for any brand we know, there are certain set of information in our brands linked to all kind of aspects, right? So the question is, are you communicating all aspects properly so that our brain in all of these 5 or 6 places, our brand is present? Like, I think a lot of times we see this whole picture, right? One person with a brain in the brand in the brain, right? The question is, where does the brand sit? Is it only sitting in the visual cortex, or is it sitting in all the other different parts of the brain? Because the more part of the brain it is sitting in, more it is able to influence the brand, right? So what is your neural presence association of the brand? So basically, when we think of a brand, what we are calling it as a brand memory. So brand memories are specific brands long-term memory. So when you think of a brand, like in research, a lot of time you ask a question, right? When you think of this brand, what comes to your mind and things like that, right? Just to understand what is the memory. But most of the time we are only trying to answer the image related aspects, when we come to that. Some of these image is related to other memories which we have. For example, whether the brand is a value for money brand or not, or affordable brand or not, right? So that will come because of the pricing memory, right? Otherwise, if I don't have any idea or any memory of the price, I cannot say the brand is affordable or not, or value for money or not, and similarly. So what we're saying is there are various kinds of these are not the complete list. I think there can be other things also, but there are communication visual memories. People remember some parts of the ads, either it's key visuals or TV ads or anything, right? Sonic memory, I think, is something which is new and upcoming, which a lot of people are not putting a lot of thoughts on, like sound of the brand. What is the sound of your brand? Taste and flavor memory, whether people remember your taste. Texture memory, pricing memory, promotion memory. I think I will go through in details for some key aspects in detail, so I'm not going to spend time here. The idea here is that your brand is an amalgamation of several type of memories, and how strong they are determines how strong your brand is in the market, in the mind of the consumers. So we are going to go deep into 4 sections in this presentation. So this was just introduction, and these sections are these 4 sections. First is echoic memory. We are going to talk about sound. What is the importance of sound in human being? What is the role of sound in marketing? And what are the possible ways, which we can use it for our marketing purpose? Second is olfactory memory, which is basically integration of smell and taste. And so in real life, we know 5 senses, right? But here we see only the 4 boxes. And the reason is I'm kind of integrated taste and smell because, once we realize, and I'm going to talk about it later, that taste and smell are very, very integrated to each other, and they cannot really exist without each other. Or some cases it is just irreplaceable, like few things which you are not able to eat, so that you can still smell, so that like things like that. So they are kind of replaceable, or they are completely integrated. And the iconic memory is all about visuals. What kind of visuals you have seen of various kind of things, and how do you create memories, and how do it impacts your brain. And finally, the haptic memory, which we call as touch and feel. Touch and feel. So when you touch and feel, and a lot of UX research and user experience has been done around that nowadays, especially for non-FMCG category, but even for FMCG it's coming up. So these are the 4 things we'll go into deep dive as we go along. Right? So before that, I think I just wanted to see if any questions. I think somebody raised a question. Somebody raised a hand. Is it Vika?
Currently not yet. Is there anyone who want to give a question? I think that we will have session for that one.
Okay. Yeah. So I think let's start with the first point, which is the echoic memory, and that is all related to sound. The first question is, why is sound important? Is sound important at all, and why is it important? So when we are doing a lot of research, we found that sound is seen as very critical for our survival, right? So if it is very important, even from the hunter-gatherer days, 100,000-year-old, right? When people were living in jungles and in caves and things like that, it was very important to distinguish between the sound of a tiger versus the sound of something which you are trying to hunt, right? A rabbit or something like that. So that you know whether you have to run towards it or you have to run against it, against it. Otherwise, if you're not able to figure out it's a tiger and you run towards the tiger, you're going to get eaten away, right? So sound and memory and remembering the sound and coding the sound is very important from a consumer or human survival, and kind of it's very interesting. Like Vika, if I ask you, you listen to songs, right? And
Yes.
and everybody listens to songs. Usually, when you listen to song, do you ever forget the songs? So some go like somebody like you have listened to a song right now once or twice, and even 1 year later, if I switch it on, you'll say, oh yeah, this is this song, right?
Yep.
So people don't kind of forget the music. Usually it kind of, good or bad, it kind of, the song, especially if it's good, people kind of tend to remember.
Yeah.
And second point is, it's a very versatile thing, sound, which is, remember, like if something is visual, you can only see something in front of you, right? But sound, you can see something which is coming from back, right? So that you are more alert, whether somebody is trying to attack you. It can come through the corners, right? So even if I'm not in front and something is coming from side, the sound can travel. Even I have to communicate, even during old days, people used to, the tribals used to use drums and things like that, to make sound travel a long distance. So I think the point was sound is a very, very important element of our survival. And because of that, the way the God has made the sound processing, it's actually quite interesting. So sound is not something which travels far in the brain. It's something which bypasses the conscious thinking. It's the only thing, the only out of the 5 senses, it is the only sense which bypasses conscious thinking. You don't have to think at all to listen to sound. Sound just comes to you. It directly goes to this area called primary auditory cortex, which is in the temporal lobe. And it basically, it directly gets processed without any processing, brain processing. And this is the place where emotions is also generated. That's why you can enjoy music in any language, or even without a language. So music, that's why they call music is something which is universal, right? So
right. That's why Mama has so many people in Indonesia love Indian music,
Yes, right. You don't know the language, right? But you love.
You don't know the language, exactly.
Yeah. And in India, I'll tell you, there are uh, 26 languages, right? And at least there are music in 5 or 7 languages. And nowadays, I think people are listening to, like I listen to some Telugu songs which are very famous. I don't know a word of it, but I still love listening to it because of the sound, because the way it kind of, even in Indonesia, a lot of people, I see not only this, English songs, a lot of people I know cannot really understand or talk in English so well, but when they sing the song, I think they are, if you close your eyes, they think some bule is singing, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's mesmerizing. So, and second point is music is also very strongly emotional. So try to listen or see a sad or a sad movie without the music, and you'll not feel sad at all. I'll try to do that experiment. If there's a sad scene going on, so a lot of that sadness comes because of the or same thing is the opposite. The jubilant. Whenever you want to feel good, you want to listen to music. Because it improves your mood immediately. So,
Mas, is it something that related to, that in Indonesia, so many K-popers, right? Like here, I know so many people here that I know is they really love BTS. I don't think that they understand the meaning also, but
absolutely.
They have an emotional feeling. I don't know whether it's with the music or it's with the people. Is it something related to this also, Mamas?
Yeah, I think it's a combination, but yeah, definitely it is related to music as well. Because like you said, I think music has no language, and that's why you can easily copy music into one language, another language, and you still feel and generally music is something which is very therapeutic, right? Anytime you want to sad, you want to listen to music. If you're happy, you want to listen to music, right? Because you don't need to think. Suppose when you don't want to think, you say, I don't want to think, I just want to listen to music, right? Because music does not need thinking. It directly goes to a part of the brain which bypasses the subconscious conscious thinking. So what other few interesting things, why it is stored, because before coming to examples is it is stored is in small bits, right? And it is very quickly stored. The first question I asked you, right, do you forget the songs or the music? Maybe sometimes you forget, but you say it is familiar, it's familiar kind of thing. Because brain stores information in one go, right? Because you're not supposed to you cannot repeat it. Like if something is front of your eyes, visual, you can see again, right? You can see multiple times to process it. And that's why when we come to the visual, we'll see that visual processing is the most arduous and most energy consuming processing, right? It's just the opposite of sound, right? And another thing is God has not given any flap on the ears, right? You cannot shut your ears, right? Because if I tell you shut up your mouth, right? But I cannot tell you shut up for your ears. So,
I cannot.
yeah, and then, even walls have ears, right? So ears are always open, So and that's why it is some, and in today's digital world, it becomes very important because anywhere you're sitting, some digital thing is playing, you're so keep making sure that the right music, right things are communicated on always on ear. It is important. And like I said, dopamine and endorphins are released, and that's why it's very healing music. And therefore, anytime you connect your brand to the right music, you're also connecting the brand to the dopamine and endorphins, right? That okay. So whenever you think of a brand, you get into that kind of feeling, right? So with this background, what can we do? What can a brand do if sound is so important? And are we doing enough? So first is what we are calling as, and it is known, and it's something which is an upcoming thing, as a lot of people have used from long time, but a lot of brands completely tend to ignore that completely. They don't care about sonic branding. So what we call here is sonic branding. Like you have a logo, right? You have a logo of brand. You can see the brand, but can you hear your brand? Can I hear your brand, right? Now we know this Tokopedia. Like, I think it was one of the first one in Indonesia creating a band for its this thing from a digital sense. the idea is that the moment I hear a sound bite, can I think it is related to that? The moment if I am able to do that, then the advantage is that I can use in every advertisement, right? So that next time when I hear the advertisement, I know it is this brand. So my branding percentage will go up. If I even if I am not listening, seeing the TV, right, and it is on, I can still hear, I can know which brand it is for. And sometimes it gets a very deep emotive relationship. So example here, I think I'll just play this. You can hear that, Vika, right? Tokopedia tune.
No, we cannot, Pak.
Cannot? That's why I said.
But I think it's everyone here must be very familiar with that song.
I know, but I have to show many other things also.
Ah, okay.
You said everything is fine. Do I need to share sound, I think?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can. Exactly. That's so familiar, yes.
Yes.
So, got a notification also, Pak. When there is a notification,
yes, correct.
Hear that song also, right?
And this they used to play in all the ads at the end, right? So at the end, people show the logo, but sometimes people don't even wait, to see the logo, and they just move to their phone. Especially when we are talking about multiple screen environment and things like that, then it's that is one way of looking at it. So any brand can create a small tune which is linked to the brand, right? Like, I don't know, Indo food. Can it create like Indo food or something like that, which they can use in all the Indo food ads? Or every brand can do that, So that's one thing. But another thing is using some kind of longer music in their ads. And I'll show you one example of one of the cult Indian brands called Titan. It's a watch brand. And see how they have used it for, I don't know, 25, 30 years. I've seen in my childhood some ads, and even now they're using the same. And anytime you run a music, the ad, I know which brand ad it is for just by the music. And nowadays, in fact, they're taking creative leaps and using the same tune in a slightly variety of ways in different ads and things like that. I will show you that.
के बाद सबसे प्यारा उपहार.
So this is almost like a 25-year-old ad. This is the one I showed you, and this one basically the music which was played. It's called it is, I think, Mozart's Fifth Symphony, and they have taken the rights of that and used that, and they have consistently used that tune in every ad. And you see the ad, hardly any talk, anything, nobody's talking anything, it's all about music. And now I think recently, a few years back, I think they released another ad just to show how ingrained this music has become to the Indian psyche.
Yes.
So this, how the children, you know, the not the children, but the, you know, the students played this music, and basically, because you don't even have to play the music now, you know, by that this is the title music, and like 0 words said in the ad, right? So that's how the importance of music, you know, that it connects you to the brand. And I really don't see very high and big examples of this in Indonesia as of yet, where there are some very strong music which people have used, and it has to be famous. It has to be something which is uh, relatable. Otherwise, if you create something new, it will take time. So if you want, you can take time, but don't keep changing the music. Create some music with the ad or the brand, and then stick to it for a longer time. Create an emotion with the music, and then you're calling that is my sonic branding. Otherwise, I think it keeps on changing with every scene kind of thing. So if you want more, you can go to YouTube and search for Titan ads. You'll get at least 500 ads last 25 years, and all ads have got the same music.
Yeah, I think that some people say that it's sounds like one of advertising here, the mineral water one.
Is it? Okay, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
But Mahesh, I think that we have a question from Mbak Tanti. Hi, Mbak Tanti, how are you? Mbak Tanti, I give you permission to talk. I think that better for you to have a discussion with us directly.
Yeah. Hello. Hi,
Hello.
hi, Mahesh.
Mbak Tanti.
Not have a chat with Mahesh anyway. I just remember when seeing this topic, I just remember my experience long time ago when I was still working in a gum brand, growing up milk. And there was a competitor that suddenly had a new TVC with they're using the I didn't know who is the singer, but my love, my everything, blah blah blah. It's sung by a famous singer at the time. And then I suddenly rushed to my boss room, and then I said, "Hey boss, this brand blah 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 is using a very nice background music for their new TVC." And he suddenly said to me, and it was like a slap on my face actually. He said, like, if you were not in front of the TV, would you know that that's a brand, or would you just like watching an MTV or listen to a song? So I think that what is the backlash or the
yeah, so
brand using someone else famous song, something like that. But the positive is that when we see the ad and we heard the music, for example, like where I have my brand and I using the Bruno Mars song, that would be very familiar, right, to my audience.
Yeah, I got your point. I think,
etc.
yeah, so the answer to that is, I think what I'm talking here is not something one-off, you know. It's not like you add one, that I'm going to talk as the next slide, but it's not that you use one song now and then use another song in the next ad and another song in the next ad. It's not just it's not like just to something to bring, you know, just to break the clutter, you know, and that kind of thing. But it is more about associating that song with your brand, right? So it's the reverse, I would say. That once I'll tell you, this music is so associated, you know, I'm able to give example because I've lived it. This is so associated with Titan that even if the real person will be playing it, then I will think it is Titan ad. So it's the opposite, you know. So because they have used it consistently for so many years, and so it is not about just one time. So like I would say the reverse of that. I would say once you have used it for 10 times for 3 years, then after that, even if somebody else is playing the music and you're not in front of TV, you will think it is this brand. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, that's so it is more about consistency here we are talking about, you know, and creating a branding. That's why I'm calling it, it's a branding. It's not a just one of, you know, music which you can use. That is, I have another example for that.
Okay.
And I think few other questions are there.
Yeah, I think you can continue first, Pak. We
Yeah.
will have a session.
After this music, okay. So the second thing, so this is about branding. So that anytime you listen to that music, either it is a very small one, 1 second, 2 seconds also, especially in today's digital world becomes important. Second one is bigger music, and sometimes this is also about the background music. It is not about song. I would say it is more about music than the song. It is not about what people are saying and singing. It is about music. So you have to create a tune, and I know recently, couple of years, 1 year back, we did a research with one of the gum clients. In fact, we are talking about not that maybe, but for example, Nestle. We work with Nestle, where they work with a Sonic branding agency to actually create a kind of multiple options of different music, which will always run in the background of their ad, irrespective of what they are trying to show, whatever is the story of the ad, whatever be the content of the ad, but that music is constant, and that is what I am talking about here, and not the what like a spoken song kind of. So coming to the second thing about spoken song, this is about musicals, using musicals in your advertisements. And like I said, music definitely impacts emotions, alters the mood, improves your feeling, right? And I would say that the example which you gave can be applicable for this ad. But sometimes in today's world, you need to also use ads to kind of reach more to people. I think Maz Zillam is on the call. I think sorry, Maz Zillam, for using this example. But this is one ad we just recently tested from Sasa. And this ad was, I'll be very frank, it is one of the best scores, recently on our EEG brainwave testing. And I'll play this ad, and it's got a huge, humongous viewing on YouTube as well. And frankly, personally, after seeing it, this song and this visuals keeps on haunting me also after seeing it.
Magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Little Jackie Paper loved that rascal Puff and brought in strings and sealing wax and other fancy stuff. All together they would travel on a boat with billowed sail. Jackie kept a lookout perch on Puff's gigantic tail. Noble kings and princes would row whenever they came. Pirate ships would lower their flags when Puff wrote out his name. Oh, Puff, the magic dragon, lived by the sea and frolic in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Magic dragon lived by the sea and frolic in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu.
Yeah, so this ad actually is very captivating music, and obviously there's a Korean star also there. But if you would have seen how interestingly they have integrated the product in the whole musical, and I think despite being such a long ad, I think consumers were very, very engaged and very interested to see what's happening in the ad. And one of the reasons is song, and this got song so hooked to me. I went to Google and searched, what is the song about, and I realized it's an old song in 1960s. There was a star who sang, and found the details, etc. So again, it's all about a famous good song and using it. This is not something which is long term, but I think for immediately getting good traction, in a like a YouTube ad or things like that, where you are spending a lot of money, or even getting a kind of virality of the content. You can use this music in your advertisement. And finally, what we call a sound of your product, right? So there are various products which has got sound. Some products will not have a sound. Sorry for that. But for example, chips. So you have cracking of chips, and then you have pouring of soda. So these are some of the very obvious examples, but I think you can think about your product and say, does it have any sound, and can I use it in my ads? So sometimes these sounds are very useful for mental priming and giving the brain the sounds that, okay, it's time to eat that or drink that, and it kind of increase your salivation, increases your effect on the brain of the advertisement. So this ad is one of the potato chip ad, which clearly uses the chips cracking very strongly in different parts of the ad.
Citato dari kentang asli pilihan dengan wavy cut yang bikin kelezatan bumbu Citato menyatu di setiap lekukannya. Rasanya, asli, benar-benar berasa. Saat nongkrong, saatnya Citato.
So if you see at multiple places, they use this cracking of chips. They need not use it, right? If you're eating, it's no apparent that people nearby can see you. It's mostly your own feeling, that you're able to feel the crunch. So the question is, do you have a product, like a sound of your product, and do you use it effectively to communicate, to trigger neural pathways? So there can be other examples. I'm not saying that these are the only three examples of using and we will keep on searching and researching for more. But these are the three we found interesting and useful. One is finding a right product, sound of your product, if it is. Second is, what is the sound of brand? Is your brand, have a sound branding, sonic branding? And third is, are you using strong musicals to create attention to your brand? Especially if you are trying to create awareness, if you want to create happy associations with the brand and things like that, right? Not necessarily if you are trying to communicate certain benefit or certain promotions. It's not for all kind of ads, but sometimes in today's digital world, when people are looking at entertainment, it's a good way to reach to a lot more consumers. And what we do is just an example, one slide, just to show you that this is where you can actually use brain waves. And this is a framework. You don't need to research, but basically something which is relaxing and enjoying at the same time. It is very pleasant. So you're relaxed and you still enjoy it. If something which is relaxing but not enjoying, it just relaxes you and it's almost like a boring and dull. Something very enjoyable but not relaxing is, you're very excited by it. You're curious and see what's happening. It is not bad, but sometimes after that you need to move to the pleasant state. And then if it is not relaxing, not enjoying, then it's basically annoying and irritating. So by using this brainwave, we can figure out where does that music sit. Or maybe it's a small 2-seconder, it's a longer version and things like that. So that's what we do. But I think finding the right sound and using it is very important for your brand. I think, in my opinion, this is the single most thing which most brands ignore. I think they have just focused on visuals and other aspects. Sound as a branding, I think it's completely missed out. So I think I have one question. Does your brand, you can say, So does your brand have any of these elements, to create sonic memory, which is the sound memory of the brand? So you can just answer.
Okay, you guys can answer the poll. This is you can pick more than one because it's a multiple choice. And while waiting people to answer the poll, I think that Mas Ilham here, raise your hand. Mas Ilham, hi, thank you we use your advertising. I really love it. It's like watching a Disney movie. You want to say something, Mas Ilham? I already give you a permission.
Yeah. So I think he's asking that it's also for delivering message. Sasa bring magic to your kitchen, emphasizes to the visual. Absolutely. So yeah, so I was saying, ultimately not just awareness, but also about this whole thing about the brand association with happiness and magic, and it for you it kind of made complete sense of in terms of saying that, because cooking and magic is also goes together, right? A lot of people think that your hand has magic, you can cook anything, right? That, so I think that makes sense. And I think I think it went well, very well. I think using the right song and finding the right what do you call, right music is very important. If any other music on this might have not worked as well.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, thank you, Mas Ilham. Oh, sorry, you are on meeting. Thank you, Mas Ilham. And Mahas, there's another question. Is there any minimum and maximum duration to check the sonic branding?
Yeah, I think usually it depends upon how you want to use, but usually it is not very long. It's usually like 5 or 7 seconds, which usually comes towards the end of the ad to close the ad. So that it's okay. It kind of becomes like a closure of the ad. That's what most of the companies use. Some of them also use the entire second, but sometimes entire is difficult because the story and the theme and everything is different of each of that. But I think 5 seconds, which comes towards the close of the ad. But it can also be the 1 seconder or 2 seconder one, which can be used in a say 5 seconder YouTube ad, right? Or any kind of other kind of digital media, right? And Instagram and things like that. So I think usually sonic branding agencies give you 2 types. One is a longer version, one is a shorter version. So you can use it in different contexts. But sometimes longer and shorter can also be linked together, so that it has got some kind of relationship between the longer and shorter version.
Okay, that's good. Okay, one more question Mama has. What about music or jingle plus voiceover? Is it going to be a noise or distraction? How do we know whether we capture the voiceover or the music?
I think Rajiv said he wants to answer this question. Can you unmute, Rajiv?
I didn't see Rajiv saying something. Okay, I think that you can continue, Pamahes. Okay. So I think it's a matter of execution, I would say, more than anything else, because it's a question that if the music and voiceover kind of clashes to each other and your voiceover is important, then you should not have voiceover at the same time. So again, usually jingle is something which is related to what is happening in the ad in a time when you're not saying something. That's why I said last 4-5 seconds or towards that, when you're trying to close the ad and you have said whatever you want to say earlier. So usually it should not clash, because otherwise, it will create some kind of confusion. But I would leave that to the creative agency, how to use it. We are not that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think that most of the people already fill up the poll. There's one. Does this? I think let's because. Yeah, time, right? Okay. Okay, so this is the result Papa has. So I think 50% of them don't use anything, right? And sound in the product obviously less. Micro sound signatures, famous, everything is less, right? I think owning a consistent music signature in the ad, I think 25% say yes. So that's interesting, but ideally it should be 100%, and more than that. And so you need to think and go back to your brand and say, at least if you're a big brand, I'm saying if you're a very small brand, then you might not do so many ads, you might not do many things. So it might be difficult. But if you have a set of brands and one of them is a big brand, they should
own this, because you're present in multiple places, multiple media, multiple things, and it becomes easier that way, to communicate. Okay.
Okay, so we go to the next session.
Yeah. Next session is olfactory memory, right? The smell and the taste, and this is very interesting, especially if there are if there are people with R&D background here, and also marketing. Olfactory, if you see here, smell and taste and the brain, like smell and taste are very integrated. So, and you can try, and all of you can try. You can try to close your nose and close any kind of breathing, and try to eat anything. You'll feel that does not have taste, at least not the same taste. I've tried it myself after understanding that, and really realized that the smell and taste are very related, and that's why. So in COVID, a lot of people, when they lost the sense of smell, they also lost the sense of taste, right? Usually they go together, right?
This happened during the COVID days, right, Pa?
Yes. I don't think people like, oh, I lost the sense of taste, but I can still smell, right? It's hardly, right? And mostly it goes together. And the reason is ultimately both the stimulus, from, if you see the picture on the left side, it goes to one part of the brain, and there it gets like processed together. So taste and smell get processed together, then only you kind of get the real feeling from the product. Actually, there are researches which shows that 80% of the flavors actually come from the eye ability to smell. So having the right aroma in the product is crucial for its liking. That's very important. So if you are a food product, I think having the right aroma is very crucial. And couple of learnings from this angle is, one is what we call taste memory and core flavors. Right, I think any category, and this has been my experience since last so many years in Indonesia, I think the rest of the world also, which is any category you take, 70 to 80% of the sales comes from the core flavor, right? So if you take milk, I think 70-80% will be from chocolate, for example, right? Or chocolate and strawberry. If you take tea, I think most of them will be jasmine tea, right? TDT. If you take anything, just take anything. Anything you take, even if you take noodles, most of them will be mee goreng, and second might be soto mee. So like 2 or 3, though they might have 150 variants, but 2 or 3 variants ultimately make up for most of the sales. Right? So why is it happening? Like it is happening because your brain has got the memories of those food. Like I was like Vika, if I ask you, if you think of Indomie, just think about it. Can you feel the taste?
Yes, very much.
Right. So
Indomie is very strong.
Yeah, but if I give you some weird name, right? Snack Licks or something like that. Maybe there's a brand in India called Pipi or something like that. Something like that. I forgot the name exactly, but if I tell you that, you'll not have any kind of feeling what the brand, right? Because there's no memory associated with that. So the question is, what is the taste memory of consumers? Most of the time, people remember the core flavors. So when they go to the outlet and they say, okay, I have to buy a noodle, Indomie. So what is the main taste comes to their mind, and they go end up buying the same flavor. That's why most of the time, like if I think of buying, well, let me drink milk. The moment I think of milk, chocolate comes to your mind, I go and buy chocolate. So I don't say, okay, let me buy milk, let me think which flavor I will drink, and then search, which flavor. So sometimes people just by default search, or there are like very, very small proportion of people who have other flavors in the mind, right? So therefore, our need is to always keep a strong focus on the core flavors. Sometimes we over-innovate and create too many variants, and kind of waste our shelf space, and most of the times, it end up not doing well. So first point is from learning is always focus on the core flavor. And if you are under indexed, if you are not selling as well on the core flavor, don't try to say that, I will sell more in the new flavor. Let me first fix your core flavor before you go to the new one. Second is flavor extensions. should you do flavor extensions? How much should you do flavor extensions? Why is it even important to do flavor? So I think flavor extensions, anytime I see a flavor, I think, and if I have a familiar taste of flavor, oxytocin is released and it impacts the salivary gland and they get a craving to consume it, right? So they get a craving of consuming it and therefore they buy it. Now, a lot of times, lot of new flavors are launched because consumers, when you ask them, will you buy this flavor, that flavor, they say, yes, I will buy this, I will buy that. But when they see it on the shelf, because they don't have a memory of that flavor and the taste, they are not able, it does not excite them. And therefore they end up buying the same product which they buy. So most of the new flavor extension fails. Sometimes we push a lot hard and do promos so people just buy it, or you do cross product promo or bundle pack and that. But over a period of time, usually unfamiliar flavors do not work. So one learning is use familiar flavor, maybe from cross category or maybe from traditional, right? So most of the successful new flavor launch are not weird flavors, but more into cross category, like a beverage flavor into food, or a food flavor into beverage, or something like that. But that also be very careful, because that also might not be accepted by consumers. Because again, consumers might not have any memory of the flavor at all. Then the question is, does that mean that I cannot launch ever, new flavor, especially the winning one? The answer to that is, I think if you launch something, please stick to it. Don't try to launch too many things and then get rid of all of them. Stick to it and do a lot of work to increase the familiarity. So in first time, they will not become familiar. Then they will have 2 times, over a period of time. Then they will get a little familiar. Make them try a lot of times before they get familiar. Once they start getting familiarity, then likely you will own that flavor extension, and then you will gain the shares in the market. But otherwise, I think it will be again the same thing. You launch something, works for 6 months, then fall down. And what can you do to increase the familiarity? I think a lot of stuff in today's market is possible, specifically the modern trade. So you can do product innovation in terms of packaging to create snip seals, where people can actually find out, whether it's they like it or not, and not just predict by name that it's going to be good. Tester packs, especially in categories where, so even food, it's possible. I think you can put a box there for people to taste. Or a lot of personal care, anyways, people are doing it. And then product trials in the outlets through SPGs, other stuff, or even driving through promotions, etc. But you need to sustain this over a period of time to build the familiarity. So I think one of the learning I see is a lot of times we launch something with a lot of fanfare and then we take it out with no noise at all. And therefore, it keeps on going a roller coaster of innovation, where you keep on launching a lot of stuff and then taking out a lot of stuff, taking out, and saying, ultimately, even 5 years, 10 years down the line, what is selling is the same classic variant, which was launched 10 years back and which was successful. So I think this I'm seeing across categories, across brands, across companies. There's hardly any new flavor which has emerged as winner and which crosses the core flavor. So we need to be very careful on this aspect, right? So I think I have one quick question, and if there's any question I can answer, but a very quick question, which is, how has been your experience of launch of new flavors and completely new flavor variants? Usually they win, lose, or it's not applicable for you.
Okay, so everyone, please fill up the poll. Silahkan isi pollnya. How been your experience of launching the completely new flavors? Okay. Is there any question from you?
Let's see question. I think.
Yeah. I think that this still relate to TPC. It's okay, right, Pak Mahes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I have one question, actually two questions here. Can multiple sensories being checked simultaneously? As an example, we would like to check the sound and the visual of our TPC at the same time. Is it possible?
Usually that's how we check most of the time. So most of the times we do together. But sometimes when I was saying that you can also check music separately, right? So because if you're creating something which people can just hear without seeing and see whether they still like it, because sometimes when you do both of them, it's very difficult to differentiate whether it's because of the visual or is it because of the sound. So sometimes if you want to create a sonic branding, I would rather say don't do it with visual, because the idea is that sound should be appealing to you irrespective of the visual, right? Because it should go with any ad or any content. Because most of the time actually we do together, but in that case we are not very going deep dive into the music. It's mostly on the entire together, right?
Okay.
But we also have the capability to do separately only the music, and that is where I think most marketers are not doing, so that's what we're trying to.
Yeah. Okay, hope it's answer your question. And there is another question here. It's directly to me. Are the music, jingle, and voiceover also works for kids? Because sometimes they didn't really catch the lyrics. Still, they're interested about the music, yeah?
Oh, yeah, sorry, for the kids.
Yeah, is it working for the kids? Because sometimes they didn't really catch the lyrics, right?
No, I think kids is a completely different thing altogether. Yeah, obviously, kids will be more, towards the music and less by the lyrics, obviously. Yeah, but I think we're not done too much work with kids on this, so it'll be difficult for me to answer.
Okay. Okay, I think that let's end the poll. And so this is the result that most of
not applicable for many, but usually there are more fails than wins.
Fails, right? Yeah, you can see here that mostly our people fails. Yeah. Okay. So it's like what you mentioned just now, actually, Pak Mahes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. For the next
there's a question on flavors.
Okay.
If we follow the other variant flavors, we are just followers, and it's hard to stand out and uplifting the volume unless it's a millions or ideal promotion. While yes, if you explore new flavors, we have the educate and to educate. We have a solution. Yeah. So I think the question is, it's not about don't think from your brand perspective, but think from the consumer perspective. The consumer, what he wants to buy, and what he'll be buying most, and that's where our whole theory on the brand memory and the taste memory. So when the person thinks of the category, what taste memory he has associated with the category. If he does not have the taste memory of the new flavors, most of the time you have to spend way too much to sell that new flavor to him. And second is, even if you are able to sell it once, it does not lead to repeat purchase on their own, because the memory is still not built and it will take long time to build that memory. So usually my suggestion is, it might be a follower thing initially, but it will be a relatively easier win. And possibly the differentiation will be on the other stuff and not on flavors. Maybe on the emotion or the branding or maybe the other piece, but if you want to be a standout differentiator only, and then say that I will just focus on completely new flavor, it will take much longer time when you are able to create the familiarity and the memory, so that next time when consumers think of the brand, they also think of that flavor. But by the time, the problem is, if it does not do well, you might want to delist it. So the most of the problem is before the consumer starts developing the taste and developing the familiarity, it gets delisted. I think that's where the problem is. So if we can sustain it over a period of time, then it is great. Otherwise, better to first focus and grow your core category, core flavors.
So basically, it will take time to make it familiar, right, Pak?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the next sense.
Okay. So next is vision, iconic memory, vision. I think we have more examples and illustration here because that's where a lot of people work on it. Now, very quickly, vision or visual memory is very complex. So compared to the other memories which we discussed earlier, like sound is very directly, processed. Vision, on the other hand, is processed with a lot of complexity and with almost like much more level of thinking required for that. And if you see here, just the process, you see in your eyes, but it's actually processed at the back of your head, the place called primary visual cortex. And it goes through various processes in various places. We don't need to know them and go through them, but the whole idea is to say that you see these visuals getting processed with the process, and 1/4 of human brain is involved in visual processing, right? That's what so like 20% of your energy is used by brain, and almost 1/5 or 1/4 of the part of the brain is for visual processing. So what is the implication of that? Implication is that consumers are very selective about what they see because they are seeing so many things and it requires so much of processing. So consumers or humans have developed a way of selective attention. So they just look at what they are interested in, and for them, rest of the things are completely blank. So they kind of are completely blank on that. So the use of semantic memory to be selected, and they use semantic memory for selective tasks, right? So they have what we call this perirhinal cortex and hippocampus. So what they do is there's a kind of dictionary of things which consumers are able to see all around, and they are able to say that, okay, this is this is that, so I don't have to pay attention at all, right? So because of this, there are a lot of things which is happening. So first is, let's look at shopper marketing. So in shopper marketing, when shopping is when consumer is shopping in an outlet, they have mastered the art of ignoring things. So I think after doing so many shopper studies, I've realized that I think they just kind of ignore most of the things which they are not interested in. So how to make them more interested? I think some of the examples of how neuro works, I think there can be other things also. I think this is not a full list, but for example, dumb display, some speed bump promotions like dumb display, they are very effective because it mentally gives them a sense of bargain. Because if it's a dump, that it's almost like somebody has thrown it, right? It's a dustbin, right? So dustbin, usually you don't have to pay. And you can just pick up from dustbin in that sense. So it's almost like saying, this is a great discount, even if the discount is not very high, but people are going to get attracted towards it. That's why even in a like a what do you call a supermarket, even like a lifestyle stores, you go to buy clothes, and a lot of focus is on the center where there are a lot of things at special prices. The dumb display of clothes used quite a bit by these kind of people. And second is yellow and a lot of structured promotion display where things are put properly. I think they just ignore it because they know that it's like it's not going to be that much of a deal. It's unnecessary processing of mind. And second is yellow color. Yellow color is used a lot for QSM and pricing and a lot of things. And the reason is yellow is the most visible color in the spectrum. So in the entire spectrum of colors, yellow is the most visible color. So that's why it's the first color which human eye can perceive. So if you show them 5, 7, 8 colors, first thing they will attention is go to is yellow. And that's why it's used for signages, signals. It was used for cabs in New York and other parts of the world. It's used for pricing stickers. It's used for promotion. So if possible, use yellow for your POSM so that consumers get quick attention and they feel that, yeah, this is something, they're able to, they'll get a quick attention in the shelves or outside the shelf as well. Like packaging, some of the things we learned that in the shopper research, we found that consumers spend 80% of the time looking at their own brands, and they don't even look at competition brands. And the reason is that somehow I think they're just searching for their brands and within that variance and things like that. So we need to stand out very clearly. So one example of this time where you see the standing pack versus the sleeping pack. So either in the makeup of the pack, how you make the pack, or how it stands on the shelf, it needs to be straightforward, right? Where the names are very straightforward rather than lying, so that the names are not very easily visible. That's one example. Second is font complexity. Humans are not able to process too many fonts together. I think that's neurologically kind of proven that multiple fonts are not processed by consumers. It kind of takes more mental energy. So have less number of fonts, have say less, like iPhone pack is a classical example, and then most people say it's a very, very distinct and very, very, very elegant pack. But we hardly have any FMCG with this kind of pack, right? We just try to write the whole story in the pack. Third is the pack pattern on the shelf. I think this is again one thing which very few companies have paid attention to. And I think because you put so many packs on your shelf, right? But can you design your pack in such a way that when they come together, they form a pattern and shows a bigger display than what it is really, right? So if you see, for example, Marlboro, I could have just asked you, I think everybody will be clear, this is Marlboro pack. And the way it goes together, the edges, aligned to each other, it kind of overall gives a greater impact. Or this interesting pack, if you show the way they have made it, that on the shelf, this milk pack, there are different shapes on different side of the pack, but if you arrange it in such a way, you can actually make the full cat, and it's very interesting that way. Just imagine how much attention it can grab, on the shelf with the display. So that kind of thing. So I think you need to have creative strategy to create visual displays, because it's consumers are otherwise blind to most of the other things, because every time they come and see the same thing, so they have kind of made a semantic memory and say, okay, there'll be this shelfware, there'll be shelfware. I don't have to look at it, just focus on my product. Then another thing on the vision is, if you remember, if you see that everything you look at, you're looking at, you can see faces on everything, right? Humans can see faces on everything. That's why Pixar and all are making cars, which is cars have eyes and everything, right? And toys and everything. Every inanimate object can be made into a face. If you see these examples here, you can actually, there's no face here, but you can almost feel the face and the expression and the emotions, right, of the cover of the phone or the wall, right? And therefore, human beings love looking at faces, and they always seek faces. So in your POSMs and things like that, always try to have faces, human faces, because human faces are what humans are directly always attracted to. So this is one example where a Kenzo ad was shown to different people, and the people who noticed this face ad was higher. Obviously, there's a beautiful girl there, but that also kind of tells the truth, right? And the second is fewer words, big fonts. Don't write the entire essay or the story in your POSM or the print ads. It looks like nobody is there waiting to read the entire thesis on that. Try to find few words which you want to convey. And my kind of illustration on this is to just, it's all about if you can walk, if you can you can read it while walking, right? If you can read it while walking, and that is the right POSM. If you cannot read it by walking and you have to stand and read, then it is too small. Right. Another thing is, on the POSM ad is this thing about mascots, right? So there's a phenomenon called anthropomorphism, right? Yeah. So which basically says that humans are trying to see faces in every animal, any kind of images and any kind of things, and more so when you're a child, right? As a child, you are trying to find faces in everything because you want to feel protected and things like that. So who does not like cartoons, right? Vika, you like cartoons, right? Or not?
Yes, of course, Pa.
So everybody has got a small kid in them, right? And
Yes.
And everybody likes cartoons. And why? Because somehow it has an impact on your internal part of your body somewhere. So that's why having a mascot is very important. It's like Puchuk Harum has been using this mascot since its launch. The moment I showed somebody this mascot, they will say it is Puchuk Harum, right? So there's again, like a sound branding, there's a mascot branding in that one sense, right? And there's a lot of examples below where people have used mascots for a long time, and it has made their brand more recognizable and more relatable and more, it's basically the return on investment goes up, right? So therefore, I think we should use mascot, and if you don't have a mascot, think about it. Can we create a mascot and use it over a period of time?
Yeah.
And I think the final part of this is pricing. I think pricing, humans don't want to pay, right? And I think theories have suggested and research has suggested that the pain from loss is higher than pleasure from the gain. So if I tell you that we'll do a toss, and if you win, I'll give you 100, and if you lose, you'll give me 100. You're most likely not say I don't want to do this, because you don't want to lose that 100, even though it means that you can win 100. But if I tell you that if you win, I'll give you 200, and if you lose, you'll give me 100, then you'll do it, because there's chance of winning is higher, right? And that's part of the human psyche, because they don't want to lose what they have, even if it does not even if it means that they don't gain anything more, right? So therefore, our pricing or promotion in such a way that we need to reduce the pain of paying. So one example we see here, I'm going to go slightly faster because we're running out of time a bit. So if you see pricing, I think one example I've always found and intrigued by is this take quota. So I don't know, I'll ask all the audience and Vika, both of them. Have you ever seen a take quota pack without the 50%?
Yes. Without what?
Without the 50% extra.
I think that now all are using this 50%.
Yeah, so actually since last 15 years, I'm seeing this pack, and it's always 50% or extra. So it is a promotion. It's actually part of the brand signature, right?
Yes.
So, yeah. So it basically is trying to reduce the pain of purchase. And there are different people who keeps on coming up, temporarily. And it usually works for bigger brands, because bigger brands, the extra has a lot of value, right? Because it's a good product. And therefore, if you're giving me extra, it makes sense. Smaller brands, if they give extra, sometimes they have to give much more extra, to make a dent. But for a bigger brand, if they do anything extra, it always creates a lot of value for the consumers. And I think it's a pattern now. A lot of people are doing this. Instead of like making a extra promotion, just making it part of the pack itself.
Mm-hmm. So basically, make it easier, make it bigger.
Yeah.
Seems bigger. Okay.
And pricing, I think, again, one point on magic price point, I think it's losing its significance right now because of the credit card, online payment, and people are buying like multiple products in a more dominance of mini markets, etc. But usually it is linked to the currency notes, because again, psychologically, neurologically, people don't want to give multiple notes. That is the reason why magic price point is important. If they have a 2000 note, if I give one note and get one thing, it is good. If I have to give 2000, 1000 becomes 3000, it's like pain is high. So that's why most of the magic price point is linked to the currency notes. So usually you'll see that 1000 is a magic price point, 2000 is a magic price point, 5000, like, because if you don't have to give two multiple notes. And but I think that is becoming less important nowadays, except for one-time consumption item in a traditional stores and things like that. But more important is the anchor price points. I think as a price point in terms of visual memory, we need to create the visual price point, which is, does your brand have a anchor price point? Do people know exactly what your brand's price is, right? So as people keep on repeated purchase, multiple times, they get an anchor price in their mind, right? So, oh, that means this brand will be at this price. This SKU will be this price. Sometimes people say, oh no, consumers don't know the price, but they exactly know the price if they are buying multiple times. So why it works, the promotions, when the big brands do promotion, why it works is because the price point is known, and the moment there's a promotion, they know, okay, this is much cheaper, so let me buy. Smaller brands, if they do the same promotion, it does not work, because smaller brand, people buying is less, and also consumers don't know the anchor price point. They think that, oh, it might be already cheap, so I don't know what is the price. So therefore, when you do the promotion, special pricing, just don't tell the price, this is the special price, but do a price anchoring. Like example here, you have to put the real price, cut the price, and then put the new price and say, okay, this is the cut the price, this is the new price. So that they know, okay, so much is the difference, right? And therefore, it's important whether people know your price or not. And if people might not know, then you need to create the anchor price point by communicating the price in the promos, in the ads, and other kind of materials. Yeah, and to get these visual things, we have this eye tracking methods. I will not go into details, but there are portable eye tracking, there are static eye tracking, with which we figure out, what consumers are paying attention to, what they are not paying attention to. If you're doing something interesting, whether it will catch attention, etc., etc. And simultaneously, we do the brainwave mapping to understand whether, especially for advertisement, whether consumers are, engaged or not with the content, or they are bored or puzzled. And I think many of you use our services for this, so I'm not going to deep on that.
Yeah.
Okay, I think last few slides before we close, I think final one is haptic memory, which is the touch. Now, interestingly, while our whole body is actually touch and it can sense, but our fingers, hands, and our lips, these are the two things, lips and tongues. These are the two things which are very, very like disproportionately higher on touch sensation. So we need to make sure that our products or the brand have got some kind of memory from touch and also from the lips and tongue. So for that, what we can do? So for touch or the hands or the fingers, I think we need to see whether our brand has got some kind of texture, what we call a use of texture. So does our brand has got the right texture, for it to, when I'm holding it and when I'm opening it. If I actually close your blindfold you and give you the pack, will you be able to make out which pack is this, right? That kind of thing. So for example, here the aqua pack, it has got some kind of texture, like a mountains and things like that. While that also creates a visual memory, but also when you touch it and feel it, it gives you some kind of texture. Over a period of time, you get used to that kind of texture. And if you hold another bottle, you don't feel the same. So, and similarly, it can be for some other brands, as well, or some other kind of things as well. And the second is the texture on the lips and tongue. So I think we know this boba kind of thing has been very famous, and the reason is not just the taste of that, but also the texture, this whole pearls and things like that, which creates additional texture to the tea compared to the normal and straightforward liquid. A lot of branded products are trying to do that. I feel that there's a packaging problem to create a product like this. Or example, Me Sedap is another brand which came up with, and it kind of gave a good fight to Indomie because of its additional toppings, right? When it started. Now I think most people are copying it, but the additional topping made it differentiated and really kind of became a very big competition for Indomie. Even now I saw there's some new variants of topping like Quick and all that getting launched. So yeah, so that gives a texture memory, right, of the product. It's not just about the taste, and it's also about the visual, but the product has certain texture, which has a memory in your lips, because they call it, it's a muscle memory. The memory is there in our body in all formats, and that's where we need to kind of tap in. I think, and last one is the rituals. Again, rituals is part of some kind of haptics, touch and feel. Human beings, since the time of tribals, they were kind of very associated with rituals, and it gives a certain kind of comfort, and memorability and association. So like some brands have rituals which they have used in their advertisement. I think everybody knows about this, right? Oreo, lick, twist, and dunk.
It's very famous here, Pak. Since
So
my young age.
So I will just quickly go through it and say, all this is such an epic movie, right?
Sério mesmo que você acha isso?
Eu acho que não. Oreo, o biscoito mais amado
I'm not
do
showing
mundo.
you that because of the thing, but as you know, I think this is all about the creating rituals. So do you have any product ritual for your brand? That this product should be consumed in this way, right? So you should do this, and then that creates, because people want to follow a lot of these things. It has a element of creating virality. It has an element of creating digital noise and things like that. And so this is a useful thing which can be done. I think the final question. So which of these senses you are not using enough for improving your brand memory?
Okay,
So,
which
yeah.
you are not using enough, right? But the question, not using enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, please fill the poll. And while waiting for the poll, I think that let's answer the question that is already here, Pak Mahes. Okay,
Yeah.
do you think giving a unique name to new flavor or variant will work well in snack and beverage category? For example, instead of just mango, we name it tropical mango to get our consumer interest.
Yeah.
So more unique.
Yeah. I would say that, sometimes it's definitely able to create some kind of the character, to the mango, tropical mango. So, but it has to have some kind of memory and meaningfulness to it. Like if you say tropical mango, I know, it has a memory of some kind of tropical forest and things like that, right? So, but I'm not so sure whether like Indonesians really have what do they mean by tropical mango, right? So it'll be just like a fad. For example, I know in chocolate, for example, a lot of companies have succeeded with saying Swiss chocolate, right?
Swiss chocolate,
because Switzerland is famous for chocolates, right? And when you say Swiss chocolate, there's some kind of associations, right? Okay, Swiss chocolate must be a higher quality chocolate.
Yeah, high quality, luxury
chocolate, right? Yeah. So tropical mango, for example, might feel like, it might be fresh mango, right? Fresher because it's tropical or something like that. So again, we need to understand what does that tropical association brings, to the brand. So that's, I would say that, it's sometimes, tropical mango is still fine. I think I have heard names which is so weird, which has absolutely zero understanding or association or familiarity with the client, the consumers. And then basically you need to have an ad just to kind of communicate and educate consumers about that name itself. So I think we should not go by very exotic names, because sometimes it might look sexy, but I think when it comes to shelf, I think consumers are going to be either it's going to be very, very variety oriented purchase, or people will just ignore it.
Okay, great answer, Pak. One more question. Does this method, I think that is related to the methodology that you mentioned before, applicable to all situations? Is there any particular requirement to use it, such as respondents reception, for instance?
Sorry, I'm not able to understand this question. I think it's a very old question, so I think we can ignore that.
Yeah, I think it's related to the methodology that you mentioned before, using the EEG, using the eye tracking. The question, can it happen to all the situation? Or is there any specific requirement to use the EEG and also the eye tracking?
No, I don't think there's any specific requirement. I think we can use the EEG for all kind of stimulus. In ads, we use it for stylomatics, for animatics, for finished reel, for music also we can use for any kind of music, short music, long music. So again, it has to be very specific. You need to discuss the more detail to answer that.
Okay, so basically it will depends on the objective and it depends on the stimulus. What is the stimulus? Okay, thank you for asking, everyone. Okay, I think that I want to close the poll right now, Pak Mahes. Yeah. Okay, so this is the result.
Music and touch, I think these are the two things which are used less, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I agree. Visual is something which is overused. I think most people are focusing on just visual memory, just visual. And that to me is one of the key thoughts, that I think we are just focusing on visual, and we are not actually using others. Specifically, to me, the most obvious is sound, and touch, I think, will depend on the category, and taste also will depend on the category. Where sound is something which is universal. I think it can be used for all brands, all categories, everything. But this is something which is least used, and one of my objectives is to get people to start using sound more.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, I think that yeah.
And I think that's it. Mostly, I think to sum up, I think that's the last slide. I think I would say create your brand memory on the following aspects, all the aspects, wherever you think it's weaker on, and fill up the gaps. I think if it's already doing well on iconic memories, I think maybe you need to improve on your echoic memory or haptic memory, but just find the gaps and then improve your memory. Because over a period, if you're a big brand and you want to become a big brand, then you need to have all the bases covered. So you need to make sure that you're strong on all aspects and not just very focused on one. That's it. Thank you very much. I think
Okay. Thank you,
can you run the last poll just to?
Yes. Okay, so we have one more poll. Basically, before we finish this, I do hope that if, let's say, you want to know more about the neuroscience in the marketing category, just let us know. We can present it to your companies after this. And for all of you, I think that so many people asking whether you guys will have this PowerPoints or the decks. Yes, we will send the material to your registered email.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want us to, present this to a wider marketing team, in your company, because maybe a lot of people did not attend it. If you want us to do that, please let us know. I think you can mention here, or even later on. I think Vika is there. You can contact her.
I think I got so many requests for that. Can you please present this to our marketing team, because currently they cannot join this. Yeah, I think that that's something that we can do if you are interested to know more about this and you want to present to the marketing team.
Yeah. Because a lot of effort has gone into this, and I think And definitely, I think it's worthwhile for people to take the marketing to the next level. Okay.
Okay, I think that's all, Pak Mahes. Thank you for your explanation. It's a really insightful for all of us. I think that I do hope that all of you who joined and participate on the webinar today can get a lot of knowledge and also insight from what Pak Mahes presented. Okay, thank you everyone. And
hopefully it was useful, and thank you very much, and have a good evening. Yeah.
okay, and as you know that Neurosensum always have a webinar every month. Please let us know if you have any specific topic to be covered, because sometimes we have, today is about the neuroscience and held by a Neurosensum team, Pak Mahes, and sometimes we are focusing on the other platform that we have, Surveysensum, and it's more to financial industry. But if, let's say, you guys have any specific topic to be covered on our webinar, please let us know. Okay, I think that's all from us today, everyone. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.